Hey everyone. Tonight, we're venturing into something a bit grimmer than our usual stories. We're going to discover what it actually felt like to live through history's most dramatic endings. Not as emperors or generals, but as regular people who just happened to wake up on the wrong Tuesday. Imagine this. You're settling in for the night after another ordinary day. Maybe you scrolled through your phone too long. Maybe you had that third cup of coffee you definitely didn't need. But when you close your eyes and drift off, something unusual happens. You're about to experience 4,000 years of empire-ending moments, all compressed into one impossibly long night. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I have work tomorrow. Don't worry, time works differently in historical dreams. You'll be back before your alarm goes off, though you might wake up with a new appreciation for indoor plumbing and the fact that nobody's currently sieging your city. So before we begin this rather intense journey through humanity's greatest hits of unfortunate endings, take a moment to consider subscribing if you want daily uploads of stories that'll make you surprisingly grateful for your beautifully boring modern life. And drop a comment telling me what time period or event you want a story on next. Now dim those lights, get comfortable as comfortable as you can get before experiencing multiple apocalypses, and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. When you open them, you won't be here anymore. Let's begin our descent into the worst night shift in human history. The year is 539 BC. You've just materialized in Babylon, and the first thing that hits you isn't the grandeur of the Hanging Gardens or the majesty of the Ishtar Gate. It's the sound, that low rhythmic thudding that makes your teeth ache. Those are battering rams, wielded by Cyrus the Great's Persian army, and they've been at it for hours. The walls are starting to crack. You're not a noble lounging in a palace. You're not a priest safe in a temple. You're just you, wearing whatever the universe decided was, period, appropriate, probably scratchy wool that smells like a goat's personal diary. And you're about to discover that when an empire falls, it doesn't go quietly. It screams, it burns, and it takes everyone down with it. Welcome to your first stop on the worst world tour ever conceived. Population: you and about 60,000 people who are about to have a very, very bad night. You stumble through the streets and immediately realize medieval times might have been a luxury resort compared to this. The air is thick with dust from crumbling brick, mixed with the acrid smoke of 1,000 cooking fires that nobody's tending anymore because everyone's too busy panicking. Your throat burns, your eyes water, and that's before you even process what you're seeing. Babylonians are running in every direction, which would be more effective if they knew where to run. Some clutch clay tablets, like they're winning lottery tickets. Others drag sacks of grain that split open, leaving trails of barley that nobody will ever eat. A merchant tries to load his entire shop onto a cart designed for maybe 3 melons. The wheels snap. He screams at the gods. The gods, notably, do not respond. You dodge a ceramic pot that shatters against a wall, spraying date wine everywhere. In 21st century terms, that's like watching someone throw a bottle of $40 Pinot Noir at concrete. Except here, that wine represents someone's entire retirement plan, and retirement just got indefinitely postponed. The famous Ishtar Gate looms ahead, its blue-glazed bricks depicting lions and dragons that now seem less like decoration and more like prophecy. The gate that welcomed traders from across the known world is now clogged with people trying to flee. They push, shove, climb over each other. An elderly scribe gets knocked down, his life's work in cuneiform scattered across stones that will be Persian property by dawn. A young soldier, maybe 18, stands at his post because nobody told him not to. His bronze spear shakes in his grip. His helmet's too big, probably his father's or older brother's, neither of whom are coming to adjust it. He's supposed to defend the greatest city in the world, but his training consisted of marching in formation and looking intimidating during harvest festivals. The Persians have actual siege warfare experience. This is like bringing a participation trophy to a gunfight. You want to tell him to run, but where? The Euphrates River, which made Babylon rich, now traps it. The same waterways that brought traders and wealth now carry Persian boats. The city that controlled trade routes is about to become one. The noise gets worse. Above the human chaos, you hear it the sound of engineering meeting ancient architecture. Crack, thud, crack, thud. The Persians aren't just breaking walls. They're breaking the idea that walls mean safety. Each impact sends vibrations through the ground, up through your sandal. So, yes, you're wearing sandals now, and they're already giving you blisters into your bones. A priest rushes past, clutching a golden statue of Marduk, Babylon's patron god. The statue's worth more than most people will see in 10 lifetimes, but right now it's just dead weight slowing him down. He trips. The statue rolls away. 3 people dive for it, not for worship, but for the gold. This is what happens when the social contract expires. Your neighbour becomes competition for resources that won't matter in 3 hours. You're pushed into an alley by the crowd and stumble over something soft. It's a child's toy, a little clay horse with wheels. Probably belonged to some merchant's kid who's currently being carried through chaos, wondering why everyone's running and why Daddy looks so scared. That toy horse has survived longer than the empire that created it. The smell hits different in waves. First, the familiar sense of any ancient city unwashed bodies. Animal dung, fermenting grain. But now there's fear sweat, which somehow smells sharper, more metallic. There's the copper tang of blood from trampling accidents. The acrid smoke is getting thicker as people burn documents, thinking destruction of records might somehow erase debts or obligations. Spoiler alert, the Persians have their own accounting methods. A woman screams from a second-story window, holding a baby. She's trying to get someone's attention, anyone's attention. But the crowd below is a river of self-preservation. Nobody's looking up. In disaster movies, people help each other. In actual disasters, people mostly help themselves. She disappears back inside, and you'll never know what choice she made. The market square, usually bustling with haggling and gossip, is chaos distilled. Stalls are overturned, precious spices mix with mud, creating the world's most expensive paste. A fortune in frankincense is ground into worthless powder under fleeing feet. Silk from distant lands is torn and trampled, its journey of thousands of miles ending in Babylonian dirt. You see a scribe sitting in a doorway, stylus in hand, clay tablet on his lap. While everyone else panics, he's writing, recording. Even now, even in this, he's doing his job. He's writing history as it happens, though he probably won't live to see it fired in a kiln. His hands are steady, his face is calm. He's accepted what others haven't, that this ending was always coming, just a matter of when. The battering intensifies. Crack. A section of wall visible from your position crumbles inward. Through the dust cloud, you see them Persian soldiers, organized and efficient, where Babylonians are chaotic and desperate. They move like they've done this before, because they have. City after city has fallen to Cyrus, and Babylon is just Tuesday's work. A Babylonian soldier throws his spear at the breach. It clatters harmlessly off a Persian shield. The Persian doesn't even break stride. This is the military equivalent of throwing a strongly worded letter at a hurricane. The temperature drops as the sun sets, but nobody notices. Adrenaline is nature's thermostat. Your modern mind keeps looking for exits that don't exist. No Uber to call, no embassy to flee to, no Swiss passport to flash. You're just another body in period-appropriate clothing, subject to the same Bronze Age mathematics. Walls plus enemy equals probable death. A noble's litter carriers have abandoned their post, leaving some perfumed aristocrat to walk the horror on his own feet. He shouts about executions and property rights, but his carriers are already gone, probably smart enough to realize that employment contracts don't survive regime changes. He tries to maintain dignity while speed-walking in robes designed for reclining. It's like watching someone try to maintain corporate professionalism during a fire drill. The sound of conquest isn't what Hollywood prepared you for. It's not dramatic orchestral swells or heroic battle cries. It's mundane, cruel-teeth crash of pottery that held someone's water supply, the splintering of doors that kept families safe, the monotonous thud of bodies hitting pavement. It's civilization becoming archaeology in real time. You pass what must have been a school. Clay tablets with student exercises lie scattered. Some kid was practicing writing "Nabu is wise" over and over, the Babylonian equivalent of writing lines. That student is probably running with his family now, his handwriting practice as irrelevant as cursive in the digital age. Education assumes a future, and Babylon just ran out of those. A cat sits on a wall, watching the chaos with feline indifference. It will survive this. Cats always do. Empires rise and fall, but cats remain, adapting to new management with psychopathic pragmatism. This one will be eating Persian scraps by tomorrow, completely unbothered by the changing cuisine. The palace district glows with fire, not the organised fire of forges or hearths, but the chaotic fire of records burning, of authorities destroying evidence of whatever they don't want Persians to find. Smoke columns rise like prayers, but darker, carrying the ash of administration, of bureaucracy, of the careful records that made Babylon function. Someone's birth certificate just became smoke. Someone's marriage contract is now carbon in the wind. You're exhausted, and it's only been an hour in ancient Babylon. Your feet hurt sandals are basically leather suggestions of shoes. Your throat is raw from dust and smoke. Your modern sensibilities are shattered by the casual brutality of societal collapse. And this is just the first empire. You have 3,961 years to go. A young couple hurries past, him pulling her by the hand. She clutches a small bundle of their possessions, or maybe their baby. They're moving with purpose, like they have a plan, a destination. You want to follow them because purposeful movement in chaos feels like hope. But then Persian arrows start falling from the sky like deadly rain, and their purposeful movement becomes panicked sprinting. The arrows make a sound thwip 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 as they cut air. Some find flesh with wet thuds, others clatter on stone. One lands inches from your foot, its bronze head still vibrating from impact. You've never been this close to designed death. In your time, violence is sanitized, distant, something that happens on screens. Here, it's immediate and personal, and smells like iron. The Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the world, are on fire. The ingenious irrigation system that lifted water to impossible heights now spreads flames with the same efficiency. Plants from across the known world, collected over centuries, become ash in minutes. It's like watching the Amazon burn, except you can feel the heat on your face and taste the exotic smoke of 1,000 different species dying at once. A child's cry cuts through everything, that universal sound that makes humans help even when helping is stupid. You turn to see a boy, maybe 6, standing alone in the street. His nice clothes mark him as wealthy, which now makes him a target. He's crying for his mother in Akkadian, a language you suddenly understand because apparently universal translation comes with this nightmare tour package. Before you can move, an old woman scoops him up. Not his grandmother her clothes are patched and repatched. Just someone who decided that empire or no empire, children don't stand alone in streets. She disappears into an alley with him, and you choose to believe they both make it because the alternative is too much for your modern mind to process. The Persians are in the city now. You can track their progress by the changing, sounds organized, marching, replacing, chaotic fleeing, Persian commands replacing Babylonian screams. They're not pillaging, not yet. Cyrus has plans for Babylon, wants it functional. But first he needs submission, and submission requires examples. You duck into a building as Persian soldiers march past. The building turns out to be a brewery, and the owner is destroying his inventory rather than let invaders have it. Clay jars of beer shatter on the floor, their contents mixing with dust to create history's saddest mud. This man spent years perfecting his recipe, building his business, establishing his reputation. Now he's turning it all into puddles, because that's the only control he has left. Waste, he mutters in accented Akkadian. All waste. Whether he means the beer, his life's work, or the empire itself is unclear. Maybe all three. Outside, the sounds of resistance are fading. The rhythmic thudding of battering rams has stopped. The walls are breached enough. Now comes the occupation, which is somehow worse than the attack. Attack at least has the dignity of opposition. Occupation is just waiting to see how bad it'll be. A Persian officer rides past on a horse that's worth more than most Babylonians will earn in a lifetime. He surveys the chaos with professional disinterest. This is his job. He's seen Damascus fall, Sardis fall, dozens of cities reduced from names to possessions. Babylon is just bigger, not different. His horse steps carefully around bodies and debris, trained for post-battle navigation. The irony is crushing. Babylon gave the world writing, mathematics, astronomy. The first laws were codified here. The concept of time divided into 60-minute hours, Babylonian. The idea that stars might predict the future, also Babylonian. And now, all that accumulated knowledge means nothing against Persian military innovation. It's like watching the Library of Alexandria burn, except you're inside, and the smoke is real. Night is falling properly now, but the city glows with fires. Not the warm fires of hearth and home, but the cold fires of ending. Documents burn, homes burn, the gardens burn. Even the river reflects orange, like the Euphrates itself is on fire. The same river that created civilization in this spot is now watching it die. You realize you're living through something that will be reduced to a paragraph in future history books. In 539 BC, Babylon fell to Cyrus, the Great of Persia. Clean, simple, bloodless. No mention of the merchant who lost everything, the soldier boy who died at his post, the scribe who kept writing, the old woman who saved a child, not her own. History loves simplicity, but collapse is complex. Your clothes are torn now, your sandals barely holding together. You've been in ancient Babylon for maybe 3 hours, and you're already broken. Not physically though, the blisters and smoke inhalation aren't fun, but mentally. Watching civilization end in real time does things to your modern assumptions about stability. And then, as if the universe has a sense of dramatic timing, everything shifts. The smoke clears, the screams fade, but instead of silence, you hear something worse laughter, drunken, vicious, celebratory laughter. You're not in Babylon anymore. The sandals are gone, replaced by leather boots that are somehow even less comfortable. The wool tunic has transformed into a rougher wool tunic that smells less like goat and more like decades of human desperation. You're in Rome. The year is 410 AD, and those aren't Persians laughing. Those are Visigoths, and they're having the time of their lives. The Eternal City is having a very temporal moment. The streets that once carried triumphant legions now carry barbarian looters who can't believe their luck. It's like watching someone win the historical lottery, except the prize is an entire civilization and everyone else loses. You stagger out of an alley. Why do you always materialize in alleys? And immediately regret it. The Roman Forum, the heart of the civilized world, is a yard sale conducted by people who don't understand pricing. A Visigoth warrior walks past wearing a senator's toga like a cape, dragging a golden eagle standard like a walking stick. He has no idea he's carrying the symbol of Roman military might. To him, it's just shiny. The smell is different from Babylon. Less dust, more wine. Much more wine. The Visigoths found the wine stores first, apparently. They're drinking vintage wines that Roman nobles saved for special occasions, mixing Falernian wine with cheap tavern swill because subtle flavour profiles aren't really a barbarian thing. It's like watching someone mix 18-year-old Scotch with Mountain Dew. A Roman matron runs past, her elaborate hairstyle now a disaster of pins and panic. She's clutching a small household god statue, because when your actual government fails, you might as well try the spiritual backup. Behind her, a Visigoth teenager is trying on her abandoned jewellery, draping himself in enough gold to sink a ship. He looks ridiculous. He doesn't care. The Colosseum looms in the distance, and even from here you can see fires dancing in its arches. The arena that hosted elaborate deaths for entertainment is now hosting a very real collapse. No tickets required. The irony is thick enough to choke on a civilization that perfected spectacular violence is dying to ordinary violence, the kind without rules or referee. You duck as a marble bust of some forgotten emperor sails past your head. The Visigoths are playing shot put with priceless art. That bust probably took months to carve, captured someone's essence in stone, and now it's a projectile in history's worst frat party. It shatters against a wall, and Emperor whoever he was becomes rubble. Sic transit gloria mundi, indeed. A Roman soldier stumbles into view, and you almost laugh at the contrast with that Babylonian boy soldier. This one's armour is tarnished, his sword is notched from actual use, and his eyes are empty of everything but exhaustion. He's not defending anything anymore. He's just trying to make it to tomorrow. He strips off his armour as he walks the uniform that once meant power now just makes him a target. The sound of Rome falling is different from Babylon. Less organised destruction, more chaotic celebration. Breaking pottery mixed with breaking lyres. Screams mixed with songs. Visigoth drinking songs that sound like someone's torturing a bear. And underneath it all, the crackle of fires that nobody's trying to put out. You pass what used to be a bakery. The ovens are cold, but Visigoths are tearing the place apart, looking for hidden coins. They throw flour sacks around like pillows, creating white clouds that mix with smoke to form a hellish fog. One finds a small coin purse and holds it up triumphantly. His companions cheer. The baker's life savings equals 1 round of barbarian drinks. A young Roman boy, maybe 12, watches from a doorway. He's well dressed, was well dressed. His tunic is torn, his face dirty, but his eyes are alert. He's watching the Visigoths like he's studying them, memorizing their tactics. This kid will survive. He's already adapting, already learning the new rules. In 20 years, he'll probably be working for whatever warlord controls this region, speaking fluent Visigoth, pretending he was never Roman at all. The Senate House is on fire, the building where Cicero orated, where Caesar was warned about the Ides of March, where centuries of law were debated. It's all becoming carbon. Smoke pours from windows like the building is exhaling its last breath. A Visigoth chieftain sits on the steps, using a priceless manuscript as kindling for his personal fire. He can't read Latin. To him, it's just dry paper. You want to scream at the waste, but then you remember your own time. How many historical sites have you scrolled past on your phone? How many museums have you promised to visit someday? The Visigoths are just doing actively what your civilization does, passively ignoring the past, because the present is more interesting. A priest runs by carrying church silver, pursued by laughing barbarians. Christianity is barely a century old as Rome's official religion, and it's already learning about persecution from the other side. The priest trips, holy chalices scattering like silver rain. The Visigoths dive for them, not because they're sacred, but because they're shiny. One puts a communion cup on his head like a tiny hat. Theology meets mockery. The rich district is getting the worst of it. Villas that house generals and merchants are being systematically stripped. You watch Visigoths carry out furniture that probably came from Egypt, silks that travelled from China, statues that Greek artists carved. The world's first global supply chain is being liquidated by people who think global means the next valley over. A Roman woman stands in her doorway, holding a kitchen knife like she knows how to use it. She's not young, not old, just determined. A Visigoth approaches, sees the knife, the stance, the look in her eyes, and decides there's easier loot elsewhere. She'll stand there all night if she has to. Some people fight empires. Some people fight Tuesday. She's fighting Tuesday and winning. You stumble over something soft and realize it's a scroll. Unrolling it reveals poetry. Virgil, maybe, though in this smoke-filled chaos it's hard to tell. These words survived Nero, survived plague, survived civil wars, and now they're street litter. You try to save it, but where would you put it? You're wearing a rough tunic and uncomfortable boots. You're not equipped for cultural preservation. The aqueducts are still flowing, which seems wrong somehow. Rome is burning, but the water system works fine, delivering fresh mountain water to a city that's forgetting what civilization means. A Visigoth washes blood off his hands in a public fountain, using infrastructure he could never build to clean up after destroying infrastructure he'll never understand. The irony compounds. Rome spent centuries perfecting the art of sacking cities. They wrote manuals on it, trained legions for it, turned conquest into science. And now they're on the receiving end, surprised that other people learned their lessons. It's like teaching someone to punch, and then acting shocked when they punch you. A cat why is there always a cat? Sits on a wall, watching Visigoths argue over a bronze statue. The cat's probably calculating which warlord will provide better scraps. Roman cats to Visigoth cats, just a change in management. The cat economy remains stable while the human one collapses. You're pushed into another crowd, this one flowing toward the Tiber River. People think water means safety, forgetting that Visigoths can swim. The crush is worse than Babylon Romans are used to crowds, but not panicked ones. Someone falls, others step over them. Civilization is a luxury that disappears when everyone's trying to not die. A merchant struggles with a cart loaded with Amphorethos' distinctive Roman jars. Wine, oil, doesn't matter. The cart's wheels catch in a rut, the amphorae tumble and shatter. Liquid gold spreads across stones that have carried million footsteps. The merchant doesn't even stop. He just keeps running, leaving behind what was probably his entire net worth. When the world ends, liquidity takes on new meaning. The moon rises, but you can barely see it through the smoke. Rome burns with an orange glow that would be beautiful if it weren't so terminal. The city that lit the ancient world is lighting itself on fire, providing barbarians with better visibility for looting. Even Roman efficiency works against Romans. A Visigoth warrior sits on the steps of a temple, trying to figure out Roman armour. He's got the breastplate on backwards and can't work out the clasps. His friends laugh and offer unhelpful advice. These are the conquerors of Rome guys who can't dress themselves in the equipment they captured. Yet they're winning, which says something about the difference between competence and momentum. You hear Latin being spoken and follow the sound. A group of Romans huddle in a partially collapsed building, speaking in whispers. They're planning something. Escape? Resistance? Prayer circle? But then Visigoth voices approach, and they scatter like roaches when the light comes on. So much for Roman solidarity. The smell is getting worse. To the wine and smoke, add burning flesh. Not many the Visigoths want slaves and workers, not corpses, but enough. Some people fought. Some people were in the wrong place. Some people just had faces the conquerors didn't like. Death in Rome was always theatrical, but this is artless killing, efficient and boring. A young Visigoth, barely bearded, stands guard over a pile of loot. He's trying to look fierce, but mostly looks cold. The Roman summer night isn't warm enough for someone from the forests of Germania. He's wrapped in a stolen curtain that probably cost more than his village produced in a year. He's literally wearing the fall of Rome. The Forum burns brighter now. The Senate House has collapsed, sending sparks into the sky like orange stars. Each spark is a law, a decree, a piece of democracy burning away. The Republic died long ago, but its ghost lived in those buildings. Now even the ghost is dying. You're exhausted. Your boots have rubbed blisters on top of the blisters from your Babylonian sandals. Your throat is raw from 2 different cities' smoke. Your mind is struggling to process the speed of collapse. This morning, was it this morning? Rome was eternal. Now it's past tense. A dog howls somewhere in the distance. Unlike the cats, dogs are loyalists. That dog is probably looking for its Roman owner, not understanding that ownership just became a very fluid concept. The howl echoes off buildings that won't be standing tomorrow, a sound that's both ancient and immediate. The Palatine Hill, where emperors lived, glows like a volcano. The palace complex that housed Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula all burning, centuries of imperial excess becoming ash. A Visigoth walks out carrying a purple cushion, the kind emperors sat on. He'll probably use it for his horse. You realise you're witnessing the end of classical antiquity. Tomorrow, historians will draw a line and say, here ended the ancient world, but you're living through the reality. It's not a line, it's a messy, smoky, wine-soaked disaster that smells like burning libraries and sounds like barbarians trying to pronounce Latin curse words. A Roman father carries his daughter through the chaos. She's maybe 5, clinging to his neck, eyes wide but not crying. Children adapt faster than adults. To her, this is just a very bad day, not the end of a civilization. She'll grow up in whatever comes next, speaking whatever language wins, worshipping whatever gods prove useful. She's the future, and the future doesn't care about the past. The Visigoths are getting organised now. The first wave of chaotic looting is ending. Now comes the systematic stripping of wealth. They're loading carts, organising slaves, dividing territory. The barbarians are learning bureaucracy in real time. Rome's greatest export administrative efficiencies being adopted by its conquerors. You stumble into the Suburra, Rome's poorest district. Ironically, it's less chaotic here. The poor have less to lose, less to loot. Visigoths pass through quickly, finding nothing worth taking. Poverty is its own defence. The people here look almost relieved. Their lives were terrible under Rome. They'll be terrible under Visigoths. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, but with worse fashion sense. A temple prostitute leans against a column, watching the chaos with professional detachment. Business is business, and conquering armies need services too. She's already figured out key Visigoth phrases, already adjusted her prices to barbarian economics. She'll survive this, like her profession has survived everything, by understanding that some demands are eternal. The night is old now. Your legs shake from exhaustion. Your clothes are more ash than fabric. You've breathed enough smoke to kill a horse. But somehow, you're still standing, still witnessing, still processing the impossible reality that Rome Romi's just another entry in history's obituary column. And then, as dawn threatens the eastern horizon, the world shifts again. The smoke swirls, thickens, becomes something else. The Latin screams morph into another language. Your boots dissolve, your tunic changes, and suddenly you're not in Rome anymore. You're somewhere worse. You're somewhere worse. The year is 1258. The smoke is different now, not the chaotic smoke of burning buildings, but the calculated smoke of systematic destruction. It carries the scent of not just wood and flesh, but paper, silk, and dreams. You're in Baghdad, jewel of the Islamic Golden Age, and the Mongols have arrived. Your outfit has changed again. Gone are the Roman boots, replaced by soft leather slippers that would be comfortable if you weren't standing in blood. The rough tunic is now a cotton robe that might have been white this morning, but is now the colour of disaster. You're in the House of Wisdom, the greatest library in the world, and it's dying. The Mongols don't loot like Visigoths. They destroy with the efficiency of a modern corporation downsizing redundant assets. A warrior walks past carrying an armload of manuscripts. He's not stealing them, he's heading for the river. In his mind, books are just kindling that hasn't burned yet. You watch a lifetime of scholarship float down the Tigris. The river runs black with ink, they'll say later, black with the death of knowledge. Mathematical treatises that revolutionized algebra dissolve into nothing. Medical texts that described surgical procedures centuries ahead of their time become soggy pulp. Translations of Aristotle that preserved Greek philosophy for the world gone, just gone. A scholar sits in the corner, holding a book to his chest, like a parent holding a child. He's not trying to save Ith knows better. He just wants to die with it, this thing he spent his life studying. The Mongol who kills him doesn't even notice the book. To him, it's just something in the way of a clean sword thrust. The screaming here is different, more resigned. Baghdad has heard the stories from other cities. They know Mongol mercy is a contradiction in terms. When Genghis Khan's grandson Hulagu gave the city an ultimatum, some counselled surrender. They're dead now too. The Mongols don't really distinguish between resistance and existence. You stumble outside and immediately wish you hadn't. The round city, with its perfect circular design, is being methodically unmade. The Mongols work in sections, like they're following a demolition blueprint. This neighbourhood today, that one tomorrow. They've turned apocalypse into a day job. The markets that made Baghdad rich are silent. No haggling over spices from India, silks from China, gold from Africa. The crossroads of the world have become a dead end. A Persian rug merchant sits among his wares, not bothering to run. Where would he go? The Mongols are everywhere, and they move faster than fear. A young boy runs past, clutching a cage with a bird. Even in annihilation, someone's trying to save something beautiful. The bird sings, oblivious to the end of the world. It'll probably outlive the boy. Birds are better at adapting to new management than humans. The famous hospitals of Baghdad are full, but not with patients. The Mongols use them as killing florcesia to clean, more efficient. The medical knowledge that could save lives is being used to organize their ending. A Greek physician who came here to study Arabic medicine stands in the doorway, watching his life's work become a slaughterhouse. He laughs, but it's the kind of laugh that means sanity just left the building. You're pushed along by crowds fleeing nowhere. The city walls that protected Baghdad for centuries took the Mongols exactly 13 days to breach. Now, those same walls trap everyone inside. It's a city-sized killbox, and the Mongols are nothing if not thorough. The House of Wisdom burns behind you. The smoke is acrid, chemical ink, and paper and binding glue create their own special hell. Centuries of human thought becoming carbon. Every formula, every poem, every painstakingly copied manuscript. The library that made Baghdad the intellectual capital of the world is becoming atmospheric pollution. A Mongol commander rides past, and you see the difference between him and those Visigoth raiders. This man is sober, focused, following orders with bureaucratic precision. The Mongols aren't celebrating. They're working. They've calculated how long it takes to destroy a city this size, allocated resources, assigned sectors. They've made genocide efficient. The famous astronomers of Baghdad won't be mapping any more stars. You pass the observatory, its instruments smashed, its calculations scattered. An astrolabe lies broken in the street, its delicate metalwork crushed under Mongol boots. The universe will have to map itself now. A cat seriously, always with the cat spicks its way through the carnage, carrying a dead rat. Life goes on, even when civilization doesn't. The cat will eat today, sleep tonight, and serve whatever masters feed it tomorrow. Cats understand regime change better than humans. The scent of death is everywhere, but mixed with something else perfume. Baghdad's perfume industry was legendary, and now all those precious oils are spilling into streets already running red. Rose attar mingles with blood. Frankincense covers the smell of fear sweat. It's like the city is trying to die beautifully. You duck into an abandoned mosque, hoping for shelter, finding only more horror. The geometric patterns that made Islamic architecture famous are splattered with things that don't bear describing. The mihrab, that pointed faithful toward Mecca, now points toward nothing. Faith didn't save anyone here. A young woman crawls past, her expensive silks torn, her elaborate braids undone. She's the daughter of someone important, was the daughter. Social hierarchy means nothing when the Mongols come. Rich, poor, scholar, fool, everyone bleeds the same colour. She whispers prayers in Arabic, Persian, Turkish, trying every language she knows. The Mongols speak none of them. The bazaars that sold everything from Indian pepper to Russian furs are being systematically torched. Each fire is set precisely, calculated to spread, but not too fast. The Mongols want complete destruction, not sloppy destruction. They're professionals. An old calligrapher sits at his desk, still working. While his city dies, he's completing one last piece, a verse from the Quran, in perfect script. His hand is steady, his concentration absolute. When the Mongol sword finds him, he's mid-stroke on the word mercy. The irony would be beautiful if it weren't so horrible. You're tired, so tired. Your feet hurt in their soft slippers, unsuited for navigating rubble and remains. Your cotton robe is heavy with absorbed fluids you don't want to identify. You've breathed smoke from 3 different civilizations now, and your lungs are organizing a protest. The Tigris River is indeed running black with ink, just as the stories will claim, but it's also running red with blood, brown with mud, and rainbow-sheened with spilled oils. The river that irrigated the birthplace of civilization is now civilization's sewer. Bodies float past like horrible boats, and you try not to think about who they were yesterday. A mosque's minaret falls with a crash that shakes the ground. The tower that called believers to prayer 5 times a day is now just rubble. Time itself seems broken. Baghdad, standardized timekeeping, invented the astrolabe, perfected the sundial. Now moments stretch like torture and compress like mercy, and noon could be midnight for all anyone cares. The Mongols are efficient, but not fast. They're taking their time, making sure nothing survives. A warrior methodically smashes ceramic tiles that took artists months to create. Another uses a manuscript illuminated with gold leaf to wipe blood off his sword. They're not angry. That's what makes it worse. This isn't passion, it's policy. A physician's house yields horrors. Medical texts annotated over generations burn alongside the herbs and instruments they describe. A human skeleton used for teaching anatomy grins at the fire, finally warm after years of educational service. Surgical tools that could save lives are being used to end them. You find yourself laughing that same broken laugh the Greek physician had. Because what else can you do? You're watching humanity's greatest intellectual achievement become history's greatest bonfire. Every scientific advancement, every philosophical insight, every artistic innovation that Baghdad produced or preserved all smoke now. The palace district glows with a different fire. The caliph was killed days ago, rolled in a carpet and trampled by horses because Mongol tradition says royal blood shouldn't touch the ground. Respectful murder, if such a thing exists. His palace burns with colours you didn't know fire could make rare pigments in the walls, creating green flames, blue smoke. A group of children huddle in an alley. They're not crying anymore. Crying assumes someone might help, and that assumption died with their parents. They watch you with eyes too old for their faces, already learning the lesson Baghdad is teaching. Knowledge doesn't protect you, wealth doesn't save you, prayers don't shield you. Only luck matters, and luck is random. The geometric gardens that made Baghdad beautiful are trampled into mud. Orange trees imported from Andalusia burn next to jasmine from Persia. The carefully maintained paradise that scholars walk through while debating is now just fuel. Even the sparrows have fled, leaving the burning trees to die in silence. You stumble over something and realize it's a chess set, the pieces scattered like tiny corpses. Baghdad perfected chess, wrote the first treatises on strategy. Now the city itself is a losing endgame, and the Mongols are playing without rules. A jade knight lies broken in half. Even the games are dying. Night falls, but the fires make darkness irrelevant. Baghdad glows like hell's suburb. The smoke is so thick you can barely see 20 feet, which is merciful. What you can't see can't haunt you, except it will anyway. The sounds are enough crashing, screaming, the efficient grunt of murder as work. A Mongol warrior sits on a pile of books, eating flatbread. He's young, maybe 16, beard barely started. To him, this is just another day at the office. His grandfather sacked Beijing. His father took Samarkand. He's doing Baghdad. It's the family business. He doesn't hate these people any more than a farmer hates wheat. They're just the crop being harvested. The House of Wisdom finally collapses, sending a cloud of smoke and sparks into the night sky. The repository of human knowledge becomes a pyroclastic cloud of ignorance. Translations that preserved ancient Greek texts gone. Mathematical proofs that wouldn't be rediscovered for centuries gone. Medical procedures that could have saved million soul gone. You're beyond exhaustion now, running on whatever keeps witnesses witnessing. Your clothes are no longer recognizable as clothes. You've lost feeling in your feet, which is probably good given what you've walked through. Your mind has started protecting itself by going numb, turning horror into data. A final scene. A master illuminator sits in his workshop, surrounded by the most beautiful books ever created. Gold leaf, lapis lazuli, intricate calligraphy that turned words into art. He's not trying to save them. Instead, he's adding one last page to his masterworker depiction of Baghdad burning, painted with the smoke of its own destruction. He'll die before finishing, but he's trying to make even the end beautiful. The Mongol destruction of Baghdad will last days more, but you've seen enough, more than enough. The city that connected east and west, that translated the wisdom of antiquity for the future, that invented everything from algebra to antisepticists, all ending. Not dramatically, not heroically, just methodically, like closing a book you'll never open again. And then the world shifts. The smoke swirls, thickens, changes. Your soft slippers dissolve. Your cotton robes transform. The Arabic screams fade into something else, something worse. Because somehow, impossibly, there's always something worse. Because somehow, impossibly, there's always something worse. The year is 1521. The smoke is different again now. It carries copal incense, blood, and the sweetness of rotting tropical flowers. You're standing on a causeway in Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, and your feet are no longer in soft slippers, but in simple sandals made from Maggie fibre. Your cotton robe has become a rough henequen tunic. You look like a commoner, which might be the only reason you're still breathing. The city that rises from Lake Texcoco is what's impossible. Venice had canals. Tenochtitlan has an entire civilization built on water. Floating gardens that feed hundreds of thousands. Causeways that connect island to shore like stone arteries. Temples that scrape the sky before skyscrapers were even conceived. And it's all dying of a disease it has no name for. The Spanish conquistadors brought more than steel and horses. They brought smallpox, and smallpox doesn't need translators or treaties. It speaks a universal language of fever and pustules and death that comes so fast the living can't bury the dead properly. You see your first victim slumped against a wall, and your modern mind immediately screams, "Get away." But where? The disease is everywhere, invisible, carried on breath and touch, and the kind of hope that makes people care for dying relatives. A warrior who could face jaguar knights without flinching is now covered in weeping sores, whimpering for water no one will bring him. The great market of Tlatelolco, which amazed even the Spanish with its size and organization, is empty. Stalls that sold everything from jade to cacao to live eagles stand abandoned. A few desperate sellers remain, but they're not selling goods. They're selling their children to anyone who might feed them. The currency of collapse is always the same: survival at any cost. A noble family stumbles past, and you can tell they're noble because even in plague times, Quetzal feathers mark status. But status means nothing to smallpox. The Lord's face is a mask of pustules. His wife already shows the fever sweat. Their children maybe don't look at their children. Wealth doesn't buy immunity from European diseases. The sound here is different from your other stops. Less screaming, more moaning. Less clashing of weapons, more quiet surrender. The Aztecs are warriors, trained from birth to fight. But how do you fight an enemy you can't see? How do you take a prisoner when the enemy lives in your own blood? Spanish soldiers patrol the causeways, but carefully. They're terrified too. Yes, they've seen smallpox before, survived it, developed immunity, but this scale of death unnerves even them. One conquistador vomits into the canal after looking into a house full of corpses. He came for gold and glory. He's getting a preview of hell. The temples that dominated the skyline are silent. No drums, no chants, no sacrifices. The priests are mostly dead, and the gods aren't answering anyway. Huitzilopochtli, the war god who demanded blood, is getting more than he ever asked for, but it's the wrong kind. This isn't ritual sacrifice with meaning and purpose. This is just meat spoiling in the sun. You pass what must have been a school for noble children. Little corpses in fine cotton, their lessons in pictographic writing scattered around them. They were learning to record history, astronomy, poetry. Now they're becoming archaeology. A codex lies open, showing the Aztec calendar. Time itself seems diseased. The famous floating garden shinam pasare untended. Crops rot in the sun while people starve because the farmers are dead and the survivors are too sick to harvest. The agricultural innovation that supported one of the world's largest cities is failing not from conquest but from neglect. Cornstalks bow under the weight of unharvested ears, a mockery of abundance. A dog not a cat, this time gnaws on something you refuse to identify. The Aztecs bred dogs for food, but now the dogs are doing the eating. The reversal would be poetic if it weren't so grotesque. The dog looks at you with eyes that have seen too much, then returns to its meal. Even animals are adapting to new management. The palace of Moctezuma, where he once held court with hundreds of attendants, is a morgue. Bodies stack in courtyards that hosted diplomatic feasts. The Spanish use it as headquarters, stepping over corpses like their furniture. They're looking for gold, always gold, not understanding they're standing in a civilization worth more than all the gold in the Americas. A young Aztec woman sits by the canal washing clothes. She's one of the few healthy ones you've seen, moving with careful purpose. She doesn't look up when Spanish soldiers pass. She's learned invisibility, the survivor's camouflage. She'll wash Spanish clothes tomorrow, marry a Spanish soldier eventually, have children who speak Spanish first. She's the future, and she knows it. The aqueducts that brought fresh water from Chapultepec are broken. The Spanish broke them during the siege, a tactical move that's now a humanitarian disaster. People drink from the canals where bodies float. Dysentery joins smallpox in the killing festival. The city that mastered hydraulic engineering is dying of thirst surrounded by water. You stumble into what was clearly an artist's workshop. Half-finished sculptures stare with obsidian eyes. Paintings on bark paper show gods and kings, and the daily life that's now ending. The artist is there too, slumped over his work, brush still in hand. He was painting the Spanish, arrival strange men, with hair on their faces and skin like plucked chickens. He didn't live to finish it. The famous zoo where Moctezuma kept eagles and jaguars and animals from across the empires silent. The animals starved or escaped or were eaten. A jaguar's cage stands open, and you wonder if it's hunting in the city now, taking advantage of the chaos. Even apex predators are opportunists when empires fall. A Spanish friar walks past, clutching a cross, muttering prayers in Latin. He's here to save souls, but the souls are leaving faster than he can baptize them. He splashes holy water on dying Aztecs who don't understand the ritual, converting them to a god they'll never have time to comprehend. Religious imperialism at its most efficient. The canals are clogged with bodies now. The efficient transportation system that moved goods and people better than European roads is becoming a network of floating cemeteries. Canoes bump against corpses. The water lilies that once decorated the canals grow through rib cages. Nature is already reclaiming what humans built. You hear Spanish laughter from a palace and investigate. Conquistadors have found the treasury, rooms full of gold worked into impossibly intricate shapes. They're melting it down, turning art into portable wealth. A gold hummingbird that took months to create becomes a formless lump in minutes. They're literally melting civilization into coins. An Aztec scribe sits in a corner, working feverishly on a codex. He's recording everything: the plague, the conquest, the end of his world. He knows the Spanish burn books, so he's hiding pages everywhere, hoping some will survive. He's racing against time and disease, trying to make permanent what's becoming past. His hands shake with fever, but he keeps writing. The great temple Templo Mayor looms above everything, its twin shrines to rain and war gods empty of meaning. Spanish soldiers use it as a lookout post, scanning for resistance that isn't coming. The steps that ran red with sacrificial blood are now just red with ordinary murder. The cosmic order the temple represented is as dead as its priests. Children wander the streets in packs, feral and desperate. Their parents are dead, their social structure collapsed. They formed their own hierarchies, based on who can find food, who can avoid Spanish attention, who remembers where the clean water used to be. Lord of the Flies, but real and happening now. The smell is overwhelming. Tropical heat accelerates decomposition. The efficient Aztec systems for waste management have failed. The Spanish complain about the stench, not recognizing their role in creating it. They wanted to conquer a city. They're getting a charnel house. A master featherworker lies dying in his workshop, surrounded by the Quetzal feathers that were worth more than gold. He spent his life creating impossible beauty cloaks that shimmered like liquid emerald, headdresses that caught light like trapped rainbows. Now the feathers blow through empty streets, worthless as the hands that worked them rot. You're beyond exhaustion now. Your feet bleed through the Maggie sandals. Your henequen tunic is stiff with dried fluids. You've lived through 4 civilizational collapses in what feels like a single endless night. Your modern mind keeps looking for exit signs that don't exist in the 16th century. The irony is crushing. Tenochtitlan was bigger than any European city. Its markets were more organized, its streets cleaner, its system of education more comprehensive. The Spanish conquistadors wrote letters home, expressing awe at what they found. Then they destroyed it, partly for gold, partly for God, partly because they could. A final image burns itself into your reeling mind, an Aztec mother holding her dead child, sitting in what was once a garden. She's not crying, she's past that. She's singing a lullaby in Nahuatl, rocking the small body like it might wake up. Around her, flowers still bloom because flowers don't know empires are ending. The contrast between beauty and horror is so sharp it cuts. The lake that made Tenochtitlan possible reflects the fires the Spanish set to burn bodies and clear streets. The water that was the city's strength became its weakness when the causeways were cut. The same isolation that protected it became a trap. Every strength contains its own defeat. Night falls on the Aztec Empire. Not the metaphorical night of conquest, but actual darkness made darker by smoke and death. Somewhere in the palace, Spanish soldiers count gold and make plans for the colonial city they'll build on these bones. Mexico City will rise from Tenochtitlan's corpse, but that's tomorrow's atrocity. For now, you stand on a causeway between water and fire, between past and future, between the world that was and the world that will be. 4 empires have died around you, Babylon's knowledge, Rome's power, Baghdad's wisdom, Tenochtitlan's beauty. Each thought it was eternal. Each became archaeology. And then, finally, mercifully, the world shifts one last time. The smoke clears not into another scene of civilizational death, but into something quieter. The sandals dissolve, the tunic fades, and you're back where you started, but not who you started as. You're in your own bed, in your own time, but sleep will not come easily, not after what you've seen, not after living through 4,000 years of endings compressed into one impossible night. The comfortable mattress feels wrong after Babylonian stone and Roman marble, and Baghdad tile and Aztec causeway. The silence feels wrong after all that screaming. Your phone buzzes with notifications, trivial problems, minor complaints, the small dramas of a functioning civilization. You look at them differently now. Every convenience, every comfort, every casual assumption of tomorrow rests on foundations that 4 great empires also thought were solid. You close your eyes, but behind your eyelids you see them. The Babylonian scribe, still writing as walls fell. The Roman woman defending her doorway with a kitchen knife. The Baghdad illuminator painting destruction with its own ashes. The Aztec mother singing to her dead child. Empires fall. They always fall. Sometimes to invasion, sometimes to disease, sometimes to their own weight. The only variable is when and how. But people endure, they adapt, they survive, they rebuild. The cat in Babylon became the cat in Rome, became the cat in Baghdad, became the dog in Tenochtitlan. Life finds a way, even when civilizations don't. You pull your blanket closer, appreciating its clean warmth in a way you never did before. Outside, your city hums with electricity and assumption. Cars pass on roads that assume tomorrow. Lights burn that assume power. Stores stock that assume supply chains. All of it fragile, all of it temporary, all of it precious, precisely because it can end. 4,000 years of human achievement can fall in a single night. You've lived it, breathed it, bled it, and now you carry it the knowledge that every empire's end begins the moment it starts, that every eternal city is just temporarily not ruins, that every golden age is just the past tense waiting to happen. Sleep, when it finally comes, brings no dreams. How could they compete with what you've seen? Instead, there's just darkness and the echo of collapsing walls, burning books, final songs. You wake to sunlight and the ordinary miracle of another day in a civilization that hasn't fallen yet. The modern world continues around you, blissfully unaware of its own fragility. But you know now. You've seen. You've lived through the night when empires fall. And that knowledge changes everything. But wait. The morning light flickers. Your comfortable bed shudders. The notification sounds on your phone distort into something else war horns. Distant, but getting closer. No, not yet. You're not done. The year is 1453. You're in Constantinople, the last ember of the Roman Empire that's been glowing for 1,000 years after Rome itself went dark. Your soft modern clothes have become a rough Byzantine tunic, your feet wrapped in cloth because even in the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, good shoes are for people who aren't about to be conquered. The city that Constantine built to be the new Rome is having its last Tuesday. The walls that turned back everybody from Arabs to Vikings have finally met their match. Turkish cannons that make the old rules of siege warfare obsolete. You're witnessing the moment when medieval meets modern and medieval loses. You're standing on the Theodosian walls, those legendary double fortifications that made Constantinople impregnable for a millennium. Except now there are holes, big holes, cannon-sized holes. Each blast shakes the ancient stones, like they're made of sand, and Byzantine soldiers scramble to fill gaps with anything rubble, furniture, their own bodies. The sound is different from your other stops. It's the sound of old meeting, new traditional war cries mixing with cannon fire, Greek prayers competing with Turkish calls, medieval swords clanging against early modern artillery. It's like listening to history change genres mid-song. Emperor Constantine XI stands visible on the walls, purple cloak making him an obvious target. He knows it, everyone knows it, but Byzantine emperors don't hide. He's the 88th emperor in an unbroken line from Augustus Caesar, and he'll die like one. His courtiers beg him to flee. There are boats ready. He could rule from exile, they say. He laughs the bitter laugh of someone who understands endings. A cannonball smashes through a section of wall near you, and the physics are wrong for what your modern mind expects. These aren't the precise weapons you know from movies. These are basically controlled explosions, pointed vaguely at stone. Sometimes they work, sometimes they explode and kill their own crews. Medieval warfare is evolving in real time, and evolution is messy. The famous Greek fire Constantinople's secret weapon that saved it countless time sputters uselessly. The formula was too secret, passed down too carefully, until somewhere along the line someone forgot a crucial ingredient. Now it's just expensive, flammable disappointment. The Empire's technological edge became its technological dead end. Turkish soldiers mass outside the walls like a steel tide. Sultan Mehmed II, barely 21 years old, wants Constantinople more than anything in the world. He's studied it, dreamed of it, prepared for it. He's brought cannons that take 4 hours to reload, but can crack walls that stood since the 4th century. He's rewriting the rules of warfare, because the old rules said Constantinople couldn't fall. Inside the city, 50,000 people wait in churches, homes, and hiding spots. They're outnumbered at least 2 to 1, possibly 3. The Genoese came to help not from kindness, but because Turkish control of Constantinople would be bad for business. Venetians too. Old enemies united by newer enemies. It's like watching Microsoft and Apple team up against Amazon. A Byzantine soldier next to you crosses himself repeatedly, muttering prayers. He's maybe 17, holding a spear his grandfather might have used. His armour is patchworker Roman breastplate here, a crusader helm there, Byzantine greaves holding it all together. He's a living museum of military history, about to become actual history. The Hagia Sophia, that architectural wonder that's been the world's largest cathedral for nearly 1,000 years, chose with desperate prayers. Citizens pack inside, believing God won't let the Turks desecrate his greatest house. They're singing hymns that have been sung here since Justinian's time. The acoustics are still perfect. The situation is not. You see, Greek fire deployed one last Timino, the legendary weapon, but a pale imitation. It singes some Turkish siege equipment, starts a small fire that's quickly doused. The defenders cheer anyway, because what else can they do? When your super weapon becomes a party trick, you applaud the party trick. A messenger runs past, screaming about the Golden Gate. The Turks found a small door that some lazy maintenance worker forgot to lock properly. 1,000 years of perfect defence, undone by the medieval equivalent of forgetting to log out of your computer. Security is always human, and humans always fail. The Emperor strips off his purple cloak, his imperial regalia. If Constantinople must fall, he won't die as an emperor cowering behind ceremony. He'll die as a Roman fighting for Rome, even if Rome is just 7 miles of walls around a dying dream. His last recorded words, "The city is fallen, and I am still alive." Then he charges into the Turkish lines and disappears into history. Turkish soldiers pour through the breach like water through a dam. The last Roman soldiers fight with the desperation of men who know they're already dead. Latin war cries that conquered the known world mix with Greek prayers that built Western civilization. Both are drowned out by Turkish victory shouts and that new sound gunpowder announcing the future. You stumble through streets that are pure chaos. Constantinople's citizens run in every direction, some to churches, some to the sea, some just in circles. A priest carries precious relics, stumbles, watches 1,000-year-old piece of the True Cross shatter on Byzantine marble. He doesn't stop to collect the pieces. What's the point of relics when God let the city fall? The famous Byzantine bureaucracy that kept the empire running for a millennium collapses in hours. Tax records, birth certificates, theological treatises, scientific manuscripts, burning or scattered or seized. 1,000 years of careful administration becoming litter in conquered streets. Some clerk probably died trying to save pension records that no longer matter. A Turkish soldier walks past carrying a golden icon, not in reverence but as loot. That's someone's saint, someone's hope, someone's family treasure passed down since iconoclasm ended. Now, it's just metal with a market value. The sacred becomes commodity in 3 easy steps: conquest, evaluation, sale. The Genoese quarter fights longest because merchants understand numbers. They can count Turkish soldiers versus defenders, calculate time until relief arrives, never, estimate survival chances, 0. But they fight anyway because sometimes bad math is better than no hope. Their crossbow's cutting-edge military technology, a century ago, might as well be slingshots against Turkish numbers. You duck into a building as Turkish cavalry rides past. The building turns out to be a scriptorium, where monks copy ancient texts. They're still working. While their city falls, they're copying Aristotle, preserving Plato, transcribing theological debates. One young monk looks up at you with eyes that have accepted everything. "Someone must remember," he says in Greek, then returns to his work. The university district burns brightest. All those manuscripts, all those accumulated centuries of knowledge. Greek texts that survived the fall of Athens. Roman laws that outlasted Rome. Christian theology refined over a millennium. Islamic science translated and preserved. All of it becoming smoke that will settle as ash on Turkish boots. A Byzantine noble woman throws jewellery from her window, rather than let Turks take it. Gold and gems rain down on cobblestones already slick with worse things. A Turkish soldier looks up, laughs, starts collecting the treasure she thought she was denying him. Spite requires someone to care about your gesture, and conquerors rarely do. The harbour is chaos multiplied. Ships trying to leave, ships trying to dock, ships on fire because someone thought that would help somehow. Families separated by crowds surge toward boats already overloaded. A child screams for parents who are 3 ships away. A merchant offers his entire fortune for passage on a boat with no more room. The sea doesn't care about human panic. You're exhausted again. Your Byzantine tunic is torn, your cloth foot wrappings soaked with things you don't examine. How many empires can one person watch die? How many last stands, final prayers, ultimate failures? Your modern mind keeps trying to process this as history, but your body knows it's real. The smoke burns, the screams hurt. The end is always personal. Turkish flags rise over the walls. The double-headed eagle of Byzantium comes down after flying for 1,000 years. The empire that called itself Roman until the very end finally admits it's not. Constantine's city becomes Mehmed's city, becomes eventually Istanbul. Names change. Ownership changes. Only the stones remain, and even they're rearranged. The Hagia Sophia's last Christian service ends with Turkish swords. Priests die at their altars. Congregants become corpses or slaves. That perfect dome that represented heaven on earth will hear different prayers tomorrow. The mosaics of Christ will be plastered over. The altar will point toward Mecca. God, if he's watching, offers no comment. You see one final scene that breaks something inside you. A Byzantine scribe sitting in the imperial library as it burns. He's not trying to save the books, there are too many, and he's too old. Instead, he's reading, consuming words as fast as his eyes can move, trying to save something in the only storage that might escape. Memory. He reads until the smoke takes him, dies mid-sentence in some treatise on the nature of light. And then, mercifully, the world shifts one more time. The world shifts, but this time it's different. The smoke doesn't clear into another scene of carnage. Instead, it thickens, becomes something else: industrial smoke, coal smoke, the smoke of a different kind of ending. The year is 1918. You're in Vienna, capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and it's not dying from invasion or disease or conquest. It's dying from paperwork. Your Byzantine tunic has become a threadbare wool coat, pre-war quality but wartime worn. Your feet are in cracked leather boots that have walked through 4 years of rationing. You're witnessing something new, an empire collapsing from signatures on a treaty. The Habsburg Palace stands intact, no conquering armies, no siege engines, no barbarians at the gates. Just empty rooms where emperors once decided the fate of dozens of peoples in dozens of languages. Emperor Charles I sits at a desk, signing his own irrelevance. No dramatic last stand, no charging into enemy lines. Just ink on paper, and 600 years of Habsburg rule becomes a historical footnote. The sound of this collapse is typewriters. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack, documenting dissolution. In a dozen government buildings, bureaucrats type up the paperwork of ending, asset division, border proposals, pension arrangements for suddenly stateless civil servants. The Austro-Hungarian Empire isn't conquered, it's dissolved, like a business partnership that went bad. You walk streets that look almost normal except for the absence. Absence of food in shop windows, the Allied blockade saw to that. Absence of young men, Italian front ate them. Absence of hope in people's eyes. 4 years of war for nothing will do that. The empire that survived Turkish sieges and Napoleon's armies is dying of starvation and paperwork. A breadline stretches around the block. These aren't peasants or refugees. These are middle-class Viennese, still wearing their pre-war finery because it's all they have left. A woman in a fox, stole that cost a fortune, in 1913, waits for her ration of turnip bread. The fox is moth-eaten now, like the empire it represents. In a cafe, because even in collapse, Vienna has cafe intellectuals argue about what comes next. One wants Greater Germany, another champions Yugoslavia, a third insists on Czechoslovakia. They're dividing the empire like children dividing toys, not realizing that nobody's going to be happy with their share. The waiter, old enough to remember Franz Joseph's Golden Jubilee, serves them ersatz coffee made from acorns and says nothing. A map dealer does booming business. Yesterday's citizens need to know what country they'll wake up in tomorrow. Will this street be Austrian, Hungarian, Czech, Yugoslav, Italian, Polish? The borders being drawn in Paris and London make no ethnic sense, no economic sense, only the vindictive sense of victors punishing the losing side's geography. You pass a recruitment office that's become a demobilization center. Soldiers who fought together for 4 years are being sorted by suddenly relevant ethnicity. Czech Legion here, Hungarian Honved there, German-Austrian Volkswehr over there. Men who shared trenches are now foreigners to each other. One officer breaks down crying not from fear, but from confusion. What army do I join if my hometown doesn't exist anymore? The Spanish flu arrives like history's exclamation point. As if losing a war and an empire wasn't enough, now people die in their beds coughing blood. The hospitals, already overwhelmed with returning wounded stag flu victims in hallways. A nurse tells you she's seen more death from disease in 2 weeks than 4 years of war. The empire survived the Black Death, but won't survive the Spanish flu combined with everything else. In the palace, servants pack up 6 centuries of Habsburg accumulation. Crown jewels that once adorned the Holy Roman Emperor. Paintings by masters who worked for imperial patronage. Diplomatic gifts from when Vienna dictated to Europe. It's all being catalogued, divided, shipped to new countries that don't exist yet. A chamberlain holds a golden orb and scepter, unsure which new nation gets the symbols of power nobody wants. Children play Republic in the streets a game, where they pretend elections matter and presidents do things. They don't understand what they're losing, because they never knew what they had. To them, empire is just a word adults use when they're sad. One child wears a paper crown and declares himself Emperor of the Playground. His friends laugh and elect someone else. Democracy is hilarious when you're 8. The state opera performs one last time before what? Nobody knows. The orchestra plays Mozart safe, non-political, definitely Austrian, unless the new borders make Salzburg German. The audience, what's left of it, sits in formal wear that hangs loose on bodies thinned by 4 years of turnips and sawdust bread. They applaud like their clapping might keep something alive. A demobbed soldier trades his medals for food. 4 years in the Carpathians, wounded twice, decorated for bravery, and now his honours buy him a sausage that's mostly sawdust and hope. The shopkeeper takes the medals, not for their value what nation will honour Austro-Hungarian decorations, but from pity. Even commerce has become charity. You stumble into a government office where they're burning records, not from conquest, but from practicality. Census data for regions that will be other countries tomorrow. Tax records for provinces that will pay different governments. Military assessments of borders that won't exist. A lifetime of imperial administration becoming smoke because filing systems don't survive partition. The famous Viennese balls continue because what else can you do? Dance on the empire's grave. Women in patched ball gowns waltz with men missing arms or eyes or hope. The orchestra plays, though half the musicians have been drafted and never returned. They dance in rooms lit by candles because the coal shortage makes electricity unreliable. It's glamorous desperation, elegant ending. In the Jewish quarter, there's different fear. Under the empire, Jews were just another minority among dozens. In the new nation-states being born, minorities will matter differently. An old rabbi who remembers pogroms in Russia tells his congregation to start learning new languages, get papers in order, be ready to move. He's seen this before. Empires protect minorities by accident. Nation-states persecute them by design. The coffee houses, Vienna's real parliament buzz, with revolution talk. Socialists, communists, anarchists, nationalists of 17 different varieties. Everyone has a plan for what comes next. Nobody agrees. A social democrat argues with a Christian socialist, while a German nationalist shouts at both. The empire that kept them all equally suppressed is gone. Now they can suppress each other. At the train station, families split, perhaps forever. The new borders will make brothers foreigners, separate parents from children, turn neighbours into citizens of enemy states. A Hungarian officer says goodbye to his Austrian wife. Will their marriage be legal in both new countries? Will they need visas to visit? Nobody knows. The age of paperwork has arrived. You watch them lower the imperial flag for the last time. The double-headed eagle that watched over dozens of peoples, that flew from the Adriatic to the Carpathians, comes down in silence. No ceremony, no speeches, just a functionary doing a job, folding history into a triangle, filing it under former symbols, Habsburg, obsolete. And then you're back, really back, in your bed, in your time, but the exhaustion is real. Your throat burns from 6 different kinds of historical smoke. Your feet ache from walking through 6 different endings. Your mind struggles to process 6 different ways civilization can fail: conquest, disease, administrative collapse, each devastating in its own special way. The morning light streams through your window, highlighting dust motes that dance like tiny empires rising and falling. Your phone buzzes with news alerts: political crisis somewhere, economic uncertainty elsewhere, climate change everywhere, the same anxieties, just dressed in modern clothes. But now you see the patterns. Every empire thought it was different, special, chosen. Babylon had the god's favour. Rome had eternal destiny. Baghdad had knowledge. Tenochtitlan had cosmic order. Constantinople had Christ. Vienna had tradition. All of them had forever until they didn't. You get up slowly, muscles protesting movements they didn't actually make, but remember anyway. In your kitchen, you turn on the tap, and clean water flows out, an impossible luxury by historical standards. The coffee maker gurgles to life, performing its morning miracle of turning beans into consciousness. You stare at these mundane wonders with new eyes. Your neighbour complains about the Wi-Fi speed. Yesterday, you might have commiserated. Today, you think about the Library of Baghdad burning, all that accumulated knowledge becoming ash. Slow internet seems like a different category of problem now. The news talks about political divisions, economic uncertainty, social unrest, the same anxieties that prowled every empire's final days. But knowing the pattern doesn't make you immune to it. You're still part of your own historical moment, subject to its blindnesses and assumptions. The Babylonians couldn't imagine a world without Babylon. Romans couldn't conceive of post-Rome reality. You struggle to imagine what comes after whatever you're living in now. But there's something else you learned in that impossible night, something the history books don't capture. People adapt. That Babylonian scribe who kept writing as walls fell, His descendants probably taught Persian children to write. The Roman woman defending her doorway, her daughters likely married Visigoth warriors and raised bilingual children. The Baghdad illuminator, his apprentices carried their skills to Cairo and Constantinople. The Aztec mother, her surviving children learned Spanish and kept Nahuatl alive in whispers. Empires are mortal, people are stubborn. You think about the cats always, the cats picking their way through each civilization's rubble with sociopathic pragmatism. They didn't care about flags or gods or ideologies. They cared about next meal, warm spot, surviving another day. There's wisdom in that selfishness, a kind of imperial indifference to empire itself. Your coffee tastes different now. Not better or worse, just temporary. This ceramic mug, mass-produced in some factory, will outlast you. It might outlast your civilization. Some future archaeologist might puzzle over its "world's best dad" inscription, wondering what cultural significance it held. The mundane becomes mysterious with enough time. You check social media and see the usual: outrage, arguments, people certain they're living through the worst, best, most important time ever. You almost comment, want to say, "I've seen how empires really end, but stop. Who'd believe you? And would it help?" Everyone thinks they're different from history until history proves otherwise. Instead, you do something else. You text a friend you haven't talked to in months. You check on your elderly neighbour. You buy coffee for the homeless vet who sits outside your building. Not because these actions will save civilization, they won't, but because when everything ends, small kindnesses are what people remember. That old woman who saved a child not her own in Babylon, the scribe who kept recording truth as his world burned. These are the people who matter when matter itself is falling apart. The sun climbs higher and your city wakes up properly. Traffic increases, no Mongol horses or Turkish cannons, just the ordinary chaos of people going about their lives. A construction crew works on a new building, adding to the skyline that seems so permanent but isn't. Everything humans build is just temporarily not ruins. You think about warning people, but warn them of what? That civilizations end? They know that intellectually, that it could happen here, now, to us. They know that too, deep down, even if they don't admit it. The Babylonians knew Persian power was growing. Romans knew the barbarians were getting stronger. Byzantines knew gunpowder changed everything. Knowing and accepting are different things. Maybe that's the real lesson from your night journey through collapsing empires. It's not about preventing the fall, that's like preventing aging or entropy. It's about what you do while standing. Do you hoard gold that conquerors will take anyway? Do you burn libraries out of spite? Do you use your last moments for cruelty or kindness? A delivery drone buzzes past your window, and you factually laugh at the absurdity. All that technology, all that progress, and humans still want the same things they wanted in Babylon: food, safety, love, meaning, and someone else to blame when things go wrong. The tools change, the needs don't. You remember the Emperor Constantine XI, stripping off his purple cloak before his last charge. There was something beautiful in that, choosing how to meet the inevitable. Not with denial or despair, but with a kind of cosmic shrug. The city is fallen, and I am still alive. Until he wasn't. But in that moment, between acknowledgement and action, he was entirely free. Your phone rings, work calling, probably about some crisis that seems important but isn't. Everything's a crisis when you lack historical perspective. You let it go to voicemail. You've been through 6 civilizational collapses before breakfast. Whatever your boss wants can wait. Outside, a sparrow builds a nest in a traffic light. Life finding a way in the most unlikely places, just like always. That bird doesn't know or care that it's living in the Anthropocene, that climate change might end the world it knows. It just builds, breeds, continues. There's a lesson there too, probably, but you're too tired for more lessons. You think about the Aztec artist painting the Spanish arrival even as his world ended. He didn't know if anyone would ever see his work, but he painted anyway. Creation in the face of destruction. Art as defiance. Beauty as rebellion against entropy. Maybe that's what humans do best, to make beautiful things that won't last and pretend they will. The mail arrives with bills, advertisements, a jury duty summons. The paperwork of empire continues until the very end. Someone, somewhere, is filing forms as their civilization collapses. It's almost comforting, this bureaucratic persistence. When the end comes, it'll probably be documented in triplicate. You make lunch with ingredients shipped from around the world. Italian tomatoes, Mexican avocados, Indian spices. The casual magic of global trade that would have stunned any previous empire. But you've seen what happens to trade routes when empires fall. Today's convenience is tomorrow's impossible memory. A news alert, some political crisis escalating, markets dropping, people panic, buying toilet paper again. The signs are always there if you know how to read them, but empires don't fall on Tuesday. They fall over decades, centuries sometimes, in slow motion that looks like stability until it doesn't. Unless you're Babylon or Rome or Baghdad or Tenochtitlan or Constantinople or Vienna. Then they fall in a night, a year, a signature. You think about writing down what you've seen, but where would you start? How do you describe the sound of the last Roman emperor disappearing into Turkish lines? The smell of the Tigris running black with ink? The sight of Aztec featherwork scattered in conquistador mud? Some experiences don't translate into words. They just live in your bones, changing how you walk through the world. Evening comes, bringing its own kind of peace. You order take-out Chinese food in cardboard containers, another casual miracle of functioning civilization. The delivery person arrives on an electric bike, the latest attempt to save the world through better batteries. You tip extra, remembering all those people in all those empires who were just trying to deliver bread or messages or hope when the world ended around them. You eat while watching a documentary about ancient civilizations. The narrator speaks in certainties. The Babylonians believed, the Romans knew, the Aztecs thought, as if past peoples were monoliths instead of millions of individuals, as confused as anyone today. You know better now. You've seen their faces, heard their screams, smelled their fear. History isn't abstract when you've lived it. The documentary ends with the usual message about learning from the past to avoid repeating it. You turn off the TV. That's not how it works. Every empire knows how previous empires fell. Rome studied Greece. The Ottomans studied Byzantium. America studies everyone. Knowledge doesn't prevent repetition because the forces that end civilization's greed, hubris, entropy, change air, larger than any lesson. Night falls on your current empire, whatever history will call it. Lights twinkle across your city like ground-level constellations. Each light represents someone living their life, assuming tomorrow, making plans. Beautiful and heartbreaking, and absolutely ordinary. This is how most people experience history, not as grand narrative, but as Tuesday's problems. You prepare for bed in reverse order from your morning, each mundane action now weighted with meaning, brushing teeth that would have rotted in any previous century, setting an alarm that assumes electricity will exist tomorrow, charging devices that connect you to a global network more fragile than anyone admits. Finally, you lie down in the same bed where this journey started, but you're not the same person who closed their eyes however many hours ago. You've lived through 6 ends of the world. You've seen how empires actually die not in glory, but in confusion. Not all at once, but all at once anyway. As sleep finally approaches, you think about those who came before. The Babylonian scribe still writing, the Roman woman still defending, the Baghdad illuminator still painting, the Aztec mother still singing, the Byzantine scholar still reading, the Viennese dancers still waltzing, all of them facing the end with whatever grace they could muster. And tomorrow? Tomorrow you'll wake up, probably, in a civilization that hasn't fallen yet. You'll drink coffee and complain about traffic and worry about things that won't matter in 100 years. But you'll do it differently now. You'll notice the infrastructure everyone takes for granted. You'll appreciate the boring stability of functioning systems. You'll see the cracks that were always there. Most importantly, you'll remember that when empires fall, they fall both slowly and suddenly, like bankruptcy, or love, or death. And when they fall, what matters isn't the grand narrative, but the small human moment's kindness amid chaos, beauty despite destruction, stubborn continuation in the face of ending. 4,000 years of human achievement can fall in one night. You've seen it, lived it, breathed it. But humans get up the next morning anyway, building new things on old ruins, pretending this time will be different, knowing it won't, hoping anyway. Because what else is there to do? The sparrow will build its nest, the cat will find new management, someone will write, someone will paint, someone will sing to the dead. And civilization, that collective agreement to pretend we're more than clever apes, will continue until it doesn't. You close your eyes for the last time tonight, and behind your eyelids you see them all. Every empire that thought it was eternal, every person who lived through the ending, every small act of defiance against the dying of the light. They're all there, waiting in history, reminding you that everything ends, but nothing really does. Sleep comes finally, bringing no dreams of falling empires. You've seen enough reality for one night. In the morning, if morning comes, you'll make coffee, you'll read the news, you'll live your life in the shadow of inevitable endings. But tonight, just for tonight, you rest. You've earned it. After all, you've just lived through 4,000 years of empires falling, and you're still here, still breathing, still human. That's enough. That's everything. The end.